time is it?
Oh, I bet there's a lot of people waiting outside.
9:30.
It's 9:30. We're not waiting for them outside. They can wait for us.
All right.
But you know what needs to happen first?
The bomb.
The bomb.
I gotta hook her a hold of that. Can you hold my slot?
Wow.
I need food and coffee.
I don't function well.
All right. Let's get started. And we always start with on-time drawing. However, we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Because we were getting.
Good enough.
Good
All right. Well, we almost filled up the sheet. People try to get so sneaky on this thing.
It's random.
All right, it's random, yeah.
I'll do it.
What if some one of these blanks comes up? We don't know yet. It is number 17. Sally is the winner, Sally. Winner, Sally. Winner needs a present. Rock title T-shirt and a pocket socket.
Okay, hold that t-shirt up. We need to get a picture of that.
There you go.
There we go. Got it.
Welcome back, Sally. We missed you. All right, let's get started. Morning, Diane.
Hello.
All right, so everybody, pull out your phones, take a selfie, take a picture of me and John.
Everybody up.
Nobody's taking pictures?
I'm trying to pull it up.
Hold on. Over here. Perfect.
And post it to Facebook. All right, rev up. What? We're what?
You goons.
Thank you. I always say I'm a dork, and I am proud of it.
All right.
All right, so Rev Up class is coming up. Module 4 tomorrow. We didn't have any Rev Up last week, so we're restarting again. Module 4 is the sales cycle of effective client communication. Jim is the instructor on that. Come Monday, it is the evening. Module.
I have it, but I'm teaching it.
All right, so it is successful. So it's number 7, holding successful open houses. And Tim is not the instructor. John is the instructor
Tim
on
is
that.
healing.
He had shoulder surgery. Module 5 next week, the residential purchase agreement. Damon's the instructor on that. Module 6, week from tomorrow, Friday, is working with buyers and getting your offers accepted. And Jeff is the instructor on
And
that.
wait.
But wait, there's more.
Post licensing this weekend. I know it doesn't affect you, but guess who's teaching it? The 6 managers from early one.
So I am giving up my whole weekend, Saturday and Sunday, to teach post licensing. So I won't be able to go to church on Sunday.
The golf course church.
All right, today at 11 o'clock this morning, there's a Altos Market Reports class. If you want in, go to rockzoom.com, rockzoom.com. And then next week, I believe it is on the 19th. You guys are asking me all the time, I need information about 1031 exchanges. What can you tell me about 1031 exchanges? 19th is a class at what time? 11 o'clock, 11 to 12, about 1031 exchanges. So where do you go for that? There's the meeting ID and passcode right there. I'm sure you could also go to rockzoom.com for that one. All right? Next week, we have the Las Vegas Valley Water District coming in for next week's business meeting. They always have great, it's so weird to look out here and see everybody eating. Water District always has great information that we can use with our buyers and our sellers, because we always hear, people out there saying, how can you guys keep building? because you're gonna run out of water. There's people at that,
This morning on
from out
the
of here.
TV, they just said the dam is going down lower again. They
Yeah.
announced that.
So, be good to be here and listen to what they have to say. April 29th is the last Friday of the month, and the last Friday of the month, what do we do? Happy hour, so put it in your calendar, 3 o'clock, Friday the 29th. There might be some alcohol beverages involved, but there'll also be snacks. And then, okay, so we have our one day, it is coming up April 29th, same day as the happy hour. Anyway, I think we still need about 4 or 5 more volunteers for this. What we do is we go feed at the Nevada Partnership for Homeless Youth. We need a total of 15 volunteers. I think we need a few more. Might have-
You can sign me up.
I don't have a sign up sheet.
Oh, shoot,
You know who you need to
You're
talk
about
to.
shaking.
Talk to Nicole if you want signed up, talk to Nicole, all right? Sign me up. Like I'm going to remember. Again, talk to Nicole. Baseball game. Who's already signed up, paid for the Aviators game? Good, good, good. There are a few tickets available. If any of you have not signed up but would like to go, you need to contact them directly here, 943-7200. Let them know that you're with the Realty One group. I think the area seats about 120, and I think we're probably at 105 or so right now, so there are a few seats available. It's gonna be fun. Who hasn't been to the Aviator Stadium? Oh, it's a blast. It's a blast, yeah. Remind, this is your weekly reminder that Transaction Desk is going away and everything is switching over to Remind. Don't shoot the messenger.
There was news yesterday.
I have, what?
There was news yesterday.
Wait, breaking news, breaking news.
Century 21 supposedly went down to LBR and said we're not doing it and take us off the list.
Huh, interesting.
Say that again?
So there are companies out there that are pulling out, I guess they're paying for, whether they're paying for Transaction Desk or paying for other systems or whatever. So I've heard a couple of companies also. But, however, as of right now, Learn, Remind, we'll make sure that the training video gets sent out again today after the meeting. Don't shoot the messenger again. Shawnee, for all your lending needs, make sure you reach out to Shawnee. Might have just got one of her clients approved and in contract. Shawnee, good job. Let's talk stats. John. So before we talk stats, this is a stat that came up on Fox 5 the other day. 30% of homes purchased in March in the Las Vegas Valley were bought with cash.
Wow.
30% of the homes were bought with
And
cash.
it doesn't matter how big, how much is that?
You know what that means? That means 70% of the homes were with a loan, so there's still a lot of opportunities out there, all right? Stats, what do we got?
All right, so the next, we changed the stat read so you can look at some different numbers. We talked about average all the time before, and now we have both average and medium on the single family. So 559 is your average price versus a year ago 454, so it's up 23%. And then the medium price, take them all and put it right in the middle. It's 460. That's what the Las Vegas LBR Journal put out, and 363 a year ago. Condos down here, average or medium, from 282 to 217. They're much closer, 270 to 194. But I've added rentals in here now. Look at this. Latest period, a rental, $2,177 for a rental, compared to a year ago, 1,000. That's a big jump. And then I added new home sales in here. Average for new home sale at this period, 448 versus last year, 370. So that's up 21% for a year ago. But our numbers here all went up this week, but the numbers in the months did not. So our average active listings on the market still are at 0.9 months, but our numbers here are showing positivity. For example, we had 3,318 single-family homes, and we're up to 3,595.
So what we have here is a 30,000-foot view. Our next guest speaker, and I'm really, really excited, is Brian Gordon. He's going to dive even deeper into a lot of this stuff. Brian, so he's a principal with Applied Analysis and does market analysis, business and hospitality consulting, and economic modeling. Brian also heads up Sales Track, the firm's residential research firm that tracks home sales and prices in the valley. Let's give Brian a big warm.
Thank you guys, appreciate it. Thanks for having me. How's the omelet bar?
Doing a great job.
They cook breakfast outside on a grill. I love that. That's good. You can do anything on a grill, right?
Absolutely.
Good deal. So, making my return. You told me it's been over 3 years. It's been since pre-COVID that I was here in this office. It's a long time ago. A lot of stuff has happened since then,
I
right?
think.
A little bit. This COVID thing, you guys have heard about this? I know. It's been a little bit of a weird couple of years, and it's still a little bit of a weird time, right? So, fortunately, the housing market has been pretty hot. Hopefully that's been doing okay for you guys, other than the listing numbers that they just walked through. That makes it a little tough sometimes when you've got buyers, but listings are, obviously where the money is being made at the moment. It allows you guys to do a lot of good stuff. So I've got for you an overview on what's happening in the economy. I thought this is just a good way to set the stage. We'll talk more about the housing market and some of the other cool stuff happening in town. These are the sort of the key themes of what I want to talk about. There's a little bit of confusion and a few issues going on around the world that I think are important to talk about at some level. And then let's talk about what's happening, here locally, specifically in the local market, at the housing market, and then some of the cool projects that are on the horizon that I always like to share with you, just so you can get an idea of what it is we're tracking and where you guys can access that information as well. So we'll get that over to you. I can't give an economic presentation without talking about what's happening globally. I'm not going to dwell on this. I think we all get the idea about what's happening in terms of the global conflict, but that is having an effect. We've seen gas prices up. We've seen all sorts of things rising in terms of prices and costs, and so you get the idea. This is playing a role in what's happening in terms of the overall economy. I do want to talk about this date. Do you guys remember this date? You do, because you were just sort of mentioning it to me. March 17th of 2020.
Shut down.
Shut down. This was the day that non-essential businesses closed here in the state of Nevada, and that had a pretty profound effect on the economy here locally. This was the first time that really hotel casinos shut down. They were closed for 78 days, and it was a difficult time for a lot of folks in this community, and nonetheless, it was really an important time in our history. And another reason it was a very important time in our history was the fact that a lot of us realized what supply chain issues were when we saw elevated demand for something and not enough supply in the market. This was when it kind of hit all of us at once, and we sort of took notice about what that meant when there's a supply-demand imbalance. And so what did we learn at that point in time when things closed? This is what we learned, right? You know what I'm talking about. You guys all ran out. We tried to get as much toilet paper as we could, right? We all thought, I don't know, COVID-19. Oh, you guys are eating breakfast. This is
No good.
COVID-19 was that time where we thought, I don't know, maybe we're going to be going to the restroom a lot. We have to get our toilet paper, right? This was the idea. I don't know why we all gravitated towards this, but I know all of you right now at home in that linen closet, upper shelf, over to the side, you've got extra packages of toilet paper. Everybody does. You see it in the store and you're still kind of like, well, maybe, all right, I'll grab another pack. This is when we learned what happens when we couldn't produce or supply enough inventory and there was too much demand, right? There was this imbalance, and you walked into the store and the shelves were empty. I know you were getting up early, you went to Target, you're like, I'm gonna beat the rush on my way to work and get some toilet paper. We all did it, right? This was the next thing. This is a ship called the Ever Given. This is operated by a company called Evergreen. They've got a bunch of these around the world. This thing holds 20,000 container ships. And what happened was, it was traveling through the Suez Canal in early 2021, and we kind of learned how this also affected supply chain issues. This is what happened. This thing is 4 football fields long, and it got stuck in the Suez Canal for 6 days. It impacted global trade by about $10 billion a day, and then containers couldn't get back to where they needed to go. It sort of constricted the amount of global activity that was going on around the world. And so, again, this was another sort of pinch point in the supply chain. And then, I don't know if you guys have recently seen this one. This is a different ship, also operated by Evergreen. This is called Ever Freedom. Really not ever free because it is stuck in the Chesapeake Bay. So this is the second one of these things that's happened. It's been there for like 3 weeks. These guys are trying to like pull it out, and they're offloading goods to try and get it out. It's still stuck there, by the way. So anyway, a lot going on there. But this is really what I wanted to show you is this is outside the Los Angeles and the Long Beach ports. This is where 40% of the goods in the United States come through. And we had a big delay out there in the LA port, so all of this product was sitting out in the Pacific Ocean, which was also creating some constraints.
What was
in
the
market.
delay? I still couldn't comprehend why was there such a.
I think there were some labor issues at the port, getting able to dock the ships to be able to offload the goods, and so it just created this pinch point, a really big pinch point in December, not that long ago. So this is what was going on there. It had almost 100 ships that were docked out there that couldn't get in, and they all had about 7,000 containers on average sitting on each one of those ships, over $30 billion worth of goods just sitting in the Pacific Ocean. So you guys remember all of those constraints that we were experiencing during that time really was problematic and affected a lot of businesses. This is the one that I think about most.
Oh, yeah.
You guys remember the Ford trucks that were rolling off the assembly line? So this is the parking, these are the parking lots at the Kentucky Speedway. So they would roll these trucks off and park them here because they couldn't get microchips to put into those vehicles that would allow them to sell those trucks. And so they're just sitting there waiting for those little microchips. We stopped making as many, they weren't getting where they needed to be, and so they couldn't sell all of these trucks. So you guys have seen car prices, right, and what's happened there. That's had an effect as well. We saw shipping costs go through the roof, which really brings me back to this really important time in our history, 1982. Some of you were around in 1982, I guess.
I was in my mom's belly.
What I can tell.
Her belly, no sin.
Anybody born after 1982 in here? I see a couple of you. Yeah.
After?
You guys are like,
I'm a 90s baby.
I was born in 74, so yeah.
so you don't even know what this is, do you?
You don't look at
E.T. You ever heard of E.T.?
Every time I
That
see
didn't
kids,
make
I'm
sense.
like, no way.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
like,
I've heard of
just
E.T.
kidding. No.
That was a scary movie.
I actually watched it, yeah.
Okay, all right. This was the big movie in 1982.
Oh,
This is how
E.T.
far ago 1982 is. That's not why it's important. Here's what prices were for a number of things. A new home was $69,000. This is national data.
Candy was only 5 cents.
Who drives a Honda Civic today?
I drive the Datsun 2210.
Datsun, okay, pretty close. All right, anyway, you get the idea. That's what the Honda Civic looked like back then. Loaf of bread, all this good stuff. Now where are we at today? Prices have gone up in the last 40 years, of course, I know.
Where are you getting a loaf of bread for $1.58?
Well, that was as of a week ago, so now it's $2.50.
Right.
Where were you?
Ain't no room for 408.
Gas for 418. Like I said, this was a week ago. National. All right. This is why 40 years ago was important. Inflation is at an all-time high now, and we haven't seen this level of inflation. Prices are going up higher than we've seen in 40 years, and so that was a long time ago. This is a problem for us, right? Everybody's experiencing it. I heard it, eggs, bread. Where do you get bread for that price? This is the idea. Prices are skyrocketing, and it's affecting everything that's going on in the economy. So don't worry, any of these, if you don't drive a car, turn the lights on, or eat food, you're not affected by inflation, so you'll be just fine, right? All right, wealth and spending. This is the second piece of what I wanted to focus on. This is the idea that the market has really changed in terms of how people are operating today. They're spending money like crazy, right? We've got all this idea about newfound wealth. People have come into a lot more money, and they're seeing things because their incomes generally have gone up. We're seeing investments are up. We're seeing the housing market is obviously up. Real estate is up. This is personal income in the state of Nevada. We've added over $30 billion worth of additional income that we wouldn't have had otherwise due to all the stimulus funding and things that are out there in the economy, so you get the idea. There's been a lot of money flowing through not only the national economy, but the local economy, and so that's boosted sort of what people are seeing. And then you take a look at where people have generated wealth over the last couple of years. A couple of key measures, I mentioned, well, the stock market is one, the real estate market is another, and then these incomes are also contributing. Over $30 trillion nationally of new wealth that's been created for people across the United States, and Nevadans are also taking advantage of that. We also took a look at home prices in Southern Nevada. We took all those assessor data files, every record, every parcel that exists in the residential market, and we said, where did they stand 2 years ago versus where do they stand today? And we see that they've added about $23 billion worth of equity. So if you owned a home, you're participating in a lot of that upside in terms of residential for sale products. So we've added over $20 billion worth of wealth equity just for homeowners in Southern Nevada. Stock market, I don't know how many of you are invested in the stock market too heavily. We've kind of had this crazy dip, and then we saw it come back up here as the Ukraine conflict with Russia unfolded, and we saw this volatility in the market. We've seen it come back up a little bit, down from where it was at the beginning of the year. But if we look kind of historically before really pre-pandemic levels, we saw that drop and then gradual gains, and it's been bouncing around. We're still well ahead of where we were. So folks that have been invested in the stock market have been doing okay. So we've seen a lot of wealth still created in that particular segment of people's wealth profile. Over $11 trillion nationally in terms of the amount of new wealth that's been created. So that brings us to now people are taking that wealth and spending it like crazy, right? We've seen a ton of consumer spending. These are taxable retail sales here in Southern Nevada. It's at an all-time high in terms of the amount of money that people are spending. So we're seeing it across the board. We're seeing spending on things like, I mentioned cars, right? Anybody been in the market for a vehicle, both used cars and new cars? Prices have been off the charts, and somehow people are still finding product to purchase, and so you've seen taxable sales, the purchase of vehicles continue to rise. We've also seen online sales related activity. Think about everybody that shifted from sort of going to the store during COVID-19 and then went online and started buying stuff. So we've seen a pretty dramatic shift there in terms of online activity as well. The job market, this one has been a little bit confusing for a lot of folks, including me at points in time during this sort of recovery cycle. We had this weird time where we lost a lot of jobs as a result of COVID-19, but somehow we are still short employees and you can't find people to work. So you guys are all sort of own your own business, so it's a little bit different, but if you're looking for an assistant or somebody else for your team, you get the idea. It's been hard to find folks to come to work. So this is the question we get all the time: where did the workers go? We'll tell you a little bit about the data that tells us exactly where, how this is unfolded. So this is what we refer to as a recovery curve. So where we were February of 2020, set it at 0. We look at what percentage of the jobs we lost, what percentage of the jobs we have gained. You can see that we're almost back to where we were pre-pandemic. We lost almost 300,000 jobs in Southern Nevada overnight.
What? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we shut down our tourism industry and a lot of people let go. We've lost almost 300,000 jobs during that time frame, and now we've started to come back. Casinos opened up, and now we're seeing things sort of recover.
Factories.
Yeah, everything is sort of coming to something that looks more like normal, but we're still off about 17,000 jobs from pre-pandemic levels. So we're getting there. We've got a little bit more ways to go. But every industry has responded a little bit differently to this. So this particular category is really warehouses and retail stores. So you guys understand when people started going online to Amazon and purchasing goods when they couldn't go to the store, didn't want to go to the store, we accelerated all that online purchasing activity. And so now what you've seen is a drive towards warehousing facilities. You've seen all these large-scale distribution boxes go up in North Las Vegas and other areas, and they're generating a lot of jobs in those particular sectors. And then the retail market has been coming back. So we've added almost 20,000 jobs during the last 2 years in this particular sector, ahead of where we were. Then you've got things like education and health services. The health industry is slowly bringing folks back on, and we've actually added some jobs in that particular sector. Construction has been bouncing around. We finished a couple of major projects, things like Allegiant Stadium, Resorts World opened in 2020. So you get the idea. We've brought on some additional projects, and so that has bounced around. I think we would probably hire more construction workers if we could find them. Government has been a little bit slower to respond, so we see the job counts are down in that particular sector and haven't completely recovered. Professional and business services, folks like us, we haven't seen all of those jobs come back quite yet. And then this is really the big one. This is where the leisure and hospitality industry sits today. It's off almost 30,000 jobs from where it was, and I don't know that we'll see all those jobs necessarily come back, right? They are finding ways to do things a little bit differently. They're investing in technology. They've let go of some of the lower margin pieces of the business. If you go to some of those hotel casino properties, you won't necessarily see things like buffets at some of those properties, things that were maybe lost leaders to get people into their buildings. They're just not doing anymore. And then we had this, a lot of turnover happening in the job market. High quit rates. In May of 2021, we had the highest rate of quits across the country. We ranked #1. That just meant people were quitting at a rapid pace. We were also hiring at a pretty good pace during that time too, but a lot of those people that were in positions like leisure and hospitality, that were dealing with the public, were getting frustrated, and we saw a lot of turnover in the job market. So people were quitting jobs pretty quickly at the fastest pace really in the United States. And this is why people were turning over. Those accommodation and service jobs, these are national statistics, but this was the highest rate of quits throughout the country. So a lot of folks that were in those service-oriented industries, they were lower pay scales. People were jumping to job to earn another $1 or $2 an hour. They're also dealing with the public that got kind of challenging. So these are the number of job openings that there are. Throughout the state of Nevada, you get the idea. We have about 100,000 job openings today. You kind of see where that other line is. We had about 75,000 jobs typically pre-COVID that were already open. So 28,000 more jobs is the point here. We have more job openings than we've had historically in even a pre-COVID era. So we're seeing a lot of positions, a lot of companies seeking workers for those open positions, and they're not able to fill them. Resorts are also looking for employees across the board. They've got all sorts of positions posted. They're continuing to hire, but they're having challenges bringing in new workers. This is an important one. This is the labor force participation rate. You're like, what is this? I don't even really care. This sounds like a big geeky, dorky thing that you guys do. Why does this matter to me? You're right, it is, but this is why it matters. So pre-COVID, we were averaging about 64% labor force participation. All this means is if you are old enough to work, you take the number of people that are actually either working or looking for work. Out of that total, we said about 64% of people, were actively in the labor market. They were working or looking for work, and we see where that came down to about 60%. So we saw a pretty good drop in terms of how many people were in the market. All this translates into is about 60,000 people left the job market. They are out of the mix. No longer in the job market, either working or looking for work. So this is the issue that we're having today. The question is, where did the workers go? They've left the job market. They've just simply moved on to do something else. And so when we look at the unemployment rate, you get the idea we're now back approaching sort of pre-COVID levels in terms of the unemployment rate. If you add those people in that left the job market, unemployment rates are higher than they are reported, and so you get the idea of how that works. So where did the workers go? This is where the workers went, right? They're out golfing, they retired, they're traveling, they're sitting on the couch watching Wheel of Fortune at night. I don't know what they're doing, but they're not working, okay? They have left the market and they've moved on and they just found another way to survive. And so a lot of people retired earlier. They've just decided they've found another way to make money and they're not actively in the labor force. I'm not sure exactly what it is they're doing, where they had 2 workers in their household, and during COVID, they were staying home with the kids, and maybe one of the workers said, you know what, let's just stay home, we won't pay for daycare, and we'll try and do it differently than we were. Yes?
I feel like especially here in Nevada, when the jobs were taken away so quickly, a lot of people didn't have confidence going back into it, knowing that, at any point they can pull the plug on you.
Yep.
So I'm noticing a lot of people starting to venture off into doing their own businesses, starting to make other, like you said, other forms of income, because you can't bank on the service industry right now.
Yes.
It was so volatile for the past 2 years.
That's exactly it. So people are out driving Uber, they're I don't know, making crafts and selling them on Etsy or whatever people
I've seen
do.
a lot of that. I've seen a lot of people just start
I
doing
say it
that.
jokingly, but it's happening, I guarantee it.
And
That's
just
for
even,
sure.
even the seniors downsizing, capitalizing on the equity and then buying a smaller place.
That's
So
exactly.
that they can just retire
Yep.
now.
Their home price was up, right, the stock market's up, they're feeling really good, I got some extra capital here I can work with and figure it out, so maybe I was gonna retire in 2, 3, 4 years, they retire earlier, and they're like, we'll just figure it out, don't worry about it. Plus, we've got some money from the government that came in, that helped them out too, right? So surveying folks that are no longer working, and we ask them, why is it that they not gone back to their job? These are all the reasons, you get the idea, you can see what they are. You know, some people had real health concerns and that sort of thing that's impacted them. But this is really the number one, right? Retirement. Retirement was the primary reason that a lot of these workers decided not to come back. And that has been sort of edging up over time as a share of the total. Housing market, you guys know anything about the housing market? A little bit, maybe? Been a little muddy, right? So this is the question we get all the time. When does the music stop? Give me a date. When does the music stop? Ever? Can this continue forever? No, it does feel a little unsustainable, right? It's a little bit crazy. So, when we think about the housing market and where it's headed, we always like to go back to this idea of what are the fundamentals of the housing market. You need people to occupy a house, right? If there are people continuing to move in, we will have demand for houses. So from that standpoint, here are the projections in terms of where population is expected to go. And you translate that into housing units, this is where the housing market is expected to go. We are gonna demand more housing units here in Southern Nevada. There is no doubt about it, as long as we continue to have this population growth. So I think this is a key sort of element of what's happening in the market and why we need to be aware of the fact that if people continue to move here, this provides stability in the market. I think for a lot of us that were here during the 05, 06, 07 timeframe and saw this similar ramp up in terms of prices and demand and lack of inventory, and then we all remember what happened in 08, 9, 10, right? It reversed course, the market collapsed, prices were cut in half almost overnight. I don't know that we're in that type of scenario. It's just a different market here, and I'll show you some of the reasons why. And these are more real-time data in terms of people that are moving in to Southern Nevada. So we track the number of driver's license surrenders. All that means is if you come from out of town and you come to Southern Nevada and you exchange your California driver's license for a Nevada driver's license, we count those. Yes, another one of those geeky dorky things we do, but you count those and we can see that we're still pretty elevated. The highest we've really seen in over a decade in terms of the number of people exchanging out of town driver's licenses. And then we also track on a more real-time basis the number of houses connected to the power grid. How many homes are on the NV Energy power grid tells us, look, there's homes, they're occupied, they're coming online, we're continuing to see growth. I know every house that's listed for sale, even if it's vacant, has the air on, I get all that, but the reality is that trend is continuing and we haven't seen it reverse course. So again, we feel like there's some stability there, there's demand in the housing market, and that's continuing today. Here's where people are coming from, right? How many of you are from California, first of all? Okay, yeah, oh, about 40% of you, yeah, okay. This is still about 40% of you are coming from California, right? So, other states around the country, but California is the biggest contributor to what we're seeing in terms of where people are originating from. Typically, this would be about 32 to 33% in a normalized time, but we're seeing a lot of people just migrate out of California in the last 12 months. Yes?
Is it fair to say that it's kind of like not accurate, because you see like a lot of the drivers still have their California license plate or
That's what I was gonna
states?
say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of that going on, right?
Yeah.
They're keeping that.
Because they don't change their license, they don't register the vehicle. It's cheaper.
They want the cheaper auto insurance from wherever they're coming from, right?
You
That happens.
can get any of them.
All in the meeting.
But it all averages out, you know, just eventually they're going
Yeah,
to.
over time, you assume that trend has been happening, so, yes, but you go out, I've got a relative that lives out in Sky Canyon, I'm out there every once in a while, and all I see are out-of-town licenses.
Yeah.
Yeah, everywhere, they moved from Pennsylvania, they had their place for about, 4 months, so, yes, I'm with you, but at some point, as that registration becomes due in another market, eventually it turns over, right? You get your smog check in Nevada, and still register in some other state, so I think that sort of works itself out over the long run. Here are the prices you just heard about, the $460,000 in the single-family market in the last month. These are Las Vegas Realtor Association data, so you get the idea. Single-family condos, townhouses, they are up dramatically, up 25, 30% year over year. Again, it's not sustainable. I don't think we can continue to see prices go up by a quarter, 25% year over year on year on year on year. I mean, prices will be at like 800,000 in a couple of years, and we'll be like, what happened, right? It's not possible. I think we're gonna have to start to see some settling in of where prices are headed. It's just become a major issue. I'll talk more about that. The number of sales taking place, it's off just a little bit. Again, partially because of inventory, talk about mortgage rates and those sorts of things, but we've seen the volume come down a little bit. So this is this morning's Wall Street Journal. What is the quote of the day? Quote of the day is this.
Straight hunting?
5%, where's our mortgage person?
Ow!
Today, right? Not that you have 5% interest rates, no, you have much lower. You guys have some ability to do some magical stuff here, but
I got 4.5 and a quarter yesterday.
4, 5 and a quarter?
5 and a quarter, US.
there you go. So this is nationally,
So today's sorry.
yeah, you get the idea. This is the average in the last week, 5%. The first time we've hit that level since 2011. 2011, for that level. So you get the idea. Mortgage rates are now starting to ramp up pretty strong. This could potentially be a problem. Yes?
Everyone's 100% different, of course. But 2017, they were like 4.75, I remember someone got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, they say that it used to be higher anyway.
This is perfect.
Yeah,
So
this is like
this is
normal.
what, you're rolling me right into the slides. This is absolutely perfect. So these are weekly, thank you. These are weekly data, so you can see sharp upcrease, right? Really sharp upturn in rates. On the mortgage side, 15 and 30-year rates, you see that. And this is like scary, right? But look where we were in 19.
Houses are up, so it changes that.
And home prices are up.
But they went down like gradually, and then in the past couple of months.
Skyrocketed.
Yeah, since October, I
So
had a
like
buyer go from 3.5 to
At a 5
Oh,
and a
yeah,
quarter,
yeah.
my buyer was gonna pay $2,400 a month.
Yep.
$360,000.
Yeah, mine are buying down
Expensive.
rates.
I mean,
This is the long run trend though. So you see where we're at on the far right. We're not that different than where we were. We're still below where we were in 19, right?
Maybe.
So we're not quite where, and again, these are monthly. Now, so we are up to 5%. I'm just kind of giving you the long run perspective here. So we are seeing things, as I mentioned, 2011 is really the latest we've seen them at this peak, but look where we've been over our history, and it's been a lot higher. But you combine the mortgage interest rate increases with the rising home prices, it's tough. It's tough. The cost of your monthly mortgage is up maybe 30% or more at this point if you're thinking about both the home
Buyers are
price
giving up.
increase and the rates, and it's tough for a lot of
Some of my
folks.
buyers are just giving up, they're just giving up.
It's tough. Look, we start to get into 7, 8, 9% rates, that's gonna really dampen demand,
Oh,
no
gosh.
question.
oh,
So here's your inventory as of the last full month. I think you heard a number of about 3,000 plus in the MLS today. These are the Urban Valley only. We focus on the urban Las Vegas Valley here, so a little bit lower, but these are through March, 2,400 units on the market. Not a whole lot there for you to choose from. I know this is frustrating. You guys are working like 5 times as hard for the same pay and sometimes less because of commission levels and all that good stuff, but look where we were in terms of the inventory back in the heyday and the Great Recession when we brought all that product on the market, and now we're lower than we've really ever been.
Why is this?
The demand has been high. The demand has been high. Money has historically been cheap, and we've seen people, hunker down in their house, right? And they're sitting around there looking around and like, I don't want to live here anymore. Let's go find a new house, right? They want something bigger, something better. They're educating their kids in the house. They're working out at home. They're working from the house. They're like, so we saw that elevated demand throughout the pandemic, and so we saw a
But
lot
at the
of.
same time, a lot of sellers just wanna sit put, stay put, because they, number one, don't have anywhere to go, but they're also still wary of the economy and.
Sure,
so
yeah,
it's
people are
like-
concerned,
yeah.
but look, for all of us that own a home today, if we bought it 3, 4, 5 years ago, and you know what your house is worth,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
you can't rebuy your house today, right? A lot of us can't afford to repurchase the house we're in today at its current value, so we're gonna stay there. We're not gonna move, because what are we gonna do? We're gonna go sell it and go buy a more expensive house? I don't think so,
what
right?
about
It gets
inventory?
tough.
What about them building more homes? Like, is there like, how they, every 30 years or every 10 years, they build more?
Yep, and I'll walk you through the new home construction stuff, so that's important, like,
Is
right,
that
you
gonna-
think, let's just.
Do you think that would like bring us back up to like the more inventory eventually?
It should help, but, we're building about enough homes for the number of people that are moving here, and I'll walk you through that in a few slides here. But this is your inventory by price segment, so how many homes do we have listed, by price segment? So you look at anything under $500,000, right, there's just not a lot to choose from. Between $500,000 and $1 million, we've got more, it's a bigger category, but then over $1 million. And then we look at the number of closings taking place by price segment, and you can kind of see where we're seeing the closings. And here's your effective inventory by price segment. So less than a month of inventory, really less than a half a month of inventory in a number of these categories. Still under a month of inventory, even if it's below $1 million. And over $1 million, we've got, a little bit more to choose from for your high-end buyers. That product just isn't turning over as quickly. This is my favorite one of all. Besides it being a fun chart, we're doing really well, right? Negative equity. We had over 7 out of 10 people were underwater in their mortgage like more than a decade ago, right? They owed more than it was worth. A lot of people bailed and just got out from under this debt. And this is where we're at today. 1% of people are underwater today. The thing I can't figure out is who is underwater on their house today.
I can.
Someone who has.
You know somebody? You got somebody? Okay, what'd they do? They bought a boat,
They were underwater in their HOAs. So in the, mortgage part, maybe not. I mean, maybe a few.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
That's
Anyway,
not
not a lot of people are underwater, right? Home prices are up pretty significantly. This is another good one. This is the amount of equity that homeowners gained in 2022. No, 2021, we're in 2022. 2021.
I'm thinking more than that.
State of Nevada, on average, a homeowner increased their wealth by about $81,000 in their house. They actually made more money on average in their house than they did working their job, right? So everybody's got all this wealth sort of floating around. You can see what happened around the country, but you get the idea. A lot of new equity has been created here in Nevada, in particular Southern Nevada. And so again, this is creating an unusual dynamic in the housing
What
market
happened
and the economy.
in South Dakota? How come there's no number there?
We don't care about South Dakota. Nobody lives there, that's why.
Not enough data.
They don't report,
Insufficient data.
I don't think they have public
What
records.
What is even out there to
so.
live?
And that's what, is that, Louisiana, or no, it's Alabama?
Mississippi or
Or
something like
Mississippi,
that,
that's
yeah.
Real estate
They do
area.
things backwards there too. So. I don't know. They don't have public records like we do here, so. And then these are the number of mortgages that are past due or in foreclosure. So you get the idea, pandemic hit, and then we've now seen that taper off. 20,000 people are, maybe late on their mortgage, not a big number in the scheme of things. See where we were during the prior cycle. And this is your new construction question. So this is the issue on the new construction side. The cost of development is really high, right? Land prices are through the roof. I'll show you some of those. The cost for labor, the cost for materials, all of that is just up significantly. So even bringing on new product, it's not going to be affordable. It's all relatively expensive, right? So here's the math on new home construction and where we're at. So on average, every housing unit has about 2.78 people residing in it, if you want to think about it that way. And based on the population of over 50,000 new residents, we're talking about 19,000 housing units that we need in the local market. And so we fast forward and we say we need 19,000 housing units, and if we look at how the market is built out, historically, about 20% of them are in apartments. And so you can kind of see what that means, and we talk about 4,000 rental units and about 15,000 for sale units in the Las Vegas Valley. And so you get the idea about what we need. And then we look where we were in the last year. We permitted about 14,000 units in Southern Nevada, for sale units. So we're bringing on about as many units as we have people coming into the market. So we're in a pretty good balance in terms of new supply and new residents that are going to demand those units. So again, this just keeps us in balance. It doesn't get us ahead to have additional capacity in the market. It's just keeping us sort of balanced and treading water. And here's what builders are saying. This is a little bit concerning too. This is a survey month by month. What are their concerns about supply chain issues? And you can see that over 40% of them think that the supply chain issues are actually getting worse. They're not getting better. So this may have them slowing down their permitting processes for some of the builders that just can't bring the product to market. And so this, again, can create some constraints in the market. And here's a good look at where land prices are, average price per acre, and you kind of see what's happening in the new home market prices and what you're seeing in the resale market in terms of prices. They all sort of ebb and flow together. And so you're seeing average land prices about $600,000 an acre last year, but there are builders that are buying properties at or above $1 million an acre right now to develop homes on. So all of that gets passed on to the consumer. The builder is not eating that cost, right? They're not gonna build homes at a loss. So land prices are up, labor costs are up, material costs are up. All of that is getting folded into the home price, and that's why you're seeing those prices continue to rise. So this is just gonna continue to create a challenge, and that's where I really wanna tell you housing affordability is going to be a problem. This is called the Opportunity Index. This is just what share of folks that are here in this market can afford the median home price today. 42%. This number is going to continue to go down, particularly as interest rates go up. It's less affordable, right? You can't buy as much if you've got to pay more on interest. Prices are going up. All of that is going to continue to tell us that there are going to be challenges going forward in terms of housing affordability. It is going to be talked about a lot more and is continuing to be a concern for this community. This is the fun stuff on the horizon, what's happening on a go-forward basis. I'll cut through these pretty quickly, but these are the things that have been happening in Las Vegas. Sports fans here, right? Raiders games, Knights games, everybody's been going, supporting the local teams. Special events, EDC, yes. Who went to EDC? I know one of you did. Somebody went. Somebody went.
I stopped when I started doing real estate though.
Okay, sure you did.
I really did.
130,000 people go to this thing every night. I mean, it's unreal, right? It's just the amount of people going to special events. Then this one, the WWE SummerSlam. Who are my wrestling? Oh, see, she was there. I knew it.
I have boys.
Oh, I have boys, right? They didn't go, but yeah, I have boys at home. Anyway, you get the idea. This is what's been supporting the tourism industry. Special events, major events have been supporting the tourism industry. We don't have all the conventions back, right? Convention travelers account for about 16% of all the visitors that come to Vegas. They haven't come back in big numbers yet. International travel, that's really not happening in any big way. That's 14% of all the people that would normally come to Las Vegas. You put those together, that's 30% of the visitors that would normally come here. We've backfilled a lot of it with these types of things. People coming to, anybody go to BTS? You're gonna tell me you have girls, right? That's what you're gonna
Didn't they say that they were too big for the MGM Arena, so they had to move it over to the stadium?
They did 4 shows.
Oh, wow.
Two last weekend and 2 weekend.
Yeah. People were camping out just for their merchandise.
People got in line at 5 a.m. to go in at a night concert. They had a ticket. They were just going in to buy a t-shirt. I don't know.
BTS?
I don't know. The Korean, you do.
Don't worry, she's been sleeping under a rock, it's okay.
K-pop, yes. So recovery curve, these are visitors coming back, right? Recession, COVID-19, coming back. We're getting there, but it's all because of these leisure events, all these special events. We're getting close. Here's how much people are spending at the casinos. I know every one of you has gone to a locals casino and spent money like you have not done in the past. I know what's going on. Look at that far right chart. That's what happens. Everybody is spending money like drunken sailors at the casino. Strip, downtown, locals, everybody's going nuts. COVID's out. We're going out. Let's go party. I know. Not a lot of other stuff to do during parts of that time, right? Not a lot of other entertainment, not a lot of movies and boats and that sort of thing. So people are sitting down at slot machines like nuts. All right, here's how much development activity is in the pipeline. How many projects we're tracking. They've got price tags of about $26 billion. We're tracking all of this stuff. I know. Here's the types of projects we've got going on. This is where they're all at. So this is anybody seen this logo?
Yes.
Oh, thank goodness, okay, so when you go into the MLS, you guys sign on, right? You get into the single sign-on system, and you see all those boxes, right? And everybody just hits the top left one, right? Like, you hit that, you go right in and you search. 8 or 9 over, you'll see this little icon. You click this, this is a data portal we built for the Las Vegas Realtors, so they are paying for this to be there. You go through there and you get this cool map, interactive map, see all these fun projects that are going on, check it out. There's all sorts of other stuff in there too, but this is where you get to some of that stuff. Here's what's under construction, about $11 billion, and you get the idea, almost $15 billion are taking place in planned projects. They haven't broken ground yet.
Like a great conversational piece.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, talk to your clients about this.
Bring up some of your data to my listing.
Good, bring them to your list.
They
That's
add a lot of
important.
analysis.
But if we use that applied analysis, we don't need to get a subscription with SourceTrack?
No.
Come on now. Don't do that to me. Two different things. The portal in the MLS is really more economic and housing data. Sales track's a separate deal. You get a great bargain through Realty One. Anyway, you guys get the idea. Yes.
The previous slide, was that Fountain Blue?
Oh, yes, I'm getting there. This is Fountain Blue,
Wow.
Finally, and back on track.
right? It looks exactly the same as 15 years
15
ago.
years ago?
It's still there, but there's a logo now. It's happening. They put their name on it. The new
We'll
owner.
see, we'll see for how long.
Third owner, maybe fourth owner.
Do you know who it is? Who's the owner?
The current owner is the original owner. This is what happens in Las Vegas. Full circle. The guys that built that to that point bought it out now recently and are moving forward, so. You get the idea. That's a big project. No, they're fighting clawing and they got back into this deal. The Sphere.
That's exciting.
This is a venue behind the Palazzo and Venetian. 17,500 seats behind the strip behind the
Palazzo, yeah.
Oh, it's a hotel?
Right next to the Howard Hughes Center.
Theater, like an arena.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's gonna be video boards on the outside, all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah.
We also have manufacturing plants that are
I've heard of those.
planned. This is Haas, this is out of
Slaughter
Henderson.
jobs.
They manufacture machines, tools, and parts and that sort of thing, so.
I was gonna get a job. Just kidding.
The college education facility, Kirk Corey Medical School downtown. We've got that going on. Summerlin, you guys have seen the building going up next to the ballpark. When you go to the Aviators game, look next door and see this thing. It's big, tall,
Right here,
high-rise
the
offices.
casino.
Yeah, new casino, Durango around the corner.
Durango.
We've got hotels going on around the Strip and South Strip, and then some other stuff. You guys ever seen this? This is in Florida.
This is the Florida one, yeah.
That's an actual hotel tower in Florida.
Hard Rock.
Shaped like a guitar, yes, the Hard Rock down in Florida. This is what's planned for the Strip. They bought the Mirage, and they're gonna build that on the Las Vegas Strip.
The Mirage?
Mirage.
I love the Mirage. I can't remember the
That's
Mirage
pretty
yet.
Well,
Was.
the Mirage won't be there anymore. It'll be called the Hard Rock, so.
They're getting rid of the fountain.
Here's the latest and greatest. I don't have a fancy picture because they haven't put one out. But it's this little thing down here. You heard about this new arena right on the South Strip? Yes, exactly. So they're gonna be doing a new entertainment venue down there, hotel, casinos, and a 20,000 seat arena.
Is that already set?
It's planned. These guys have a lot of money, so they're gonna be in a pretty good spot to maybe pull this off. So that'll be down on the South Strip, right off Blue Diamond, at I-15. Yes.
Question is, with all of this planning and billions of dollars being put, do they have a game plan for our water? Access and
Ah, we're
distribution?
fine.
Yes, so we're very, very, very low.
Colorado, we can have
The Southern Nevada Water Authority is doing a lot to try and address that.
They're gonna be here next week.
We're gonna find out next week, what are we doing?
Yeah, a lot of things,
The
right?
water
You've heard of this
district's coming
non-functional turf, right? So your HOA is gonna start taking out any grass that's non-functional, that isn't used as maybe a park. and
That's
those
good.
type of things. You've probably seen it in Summerlin, some of the grass is coming out of medians, so you're not wasting water there. And then the big thing right now for commercial, property owners, they're getting rid of evaporative coolers. So imagine a 1 million square foot industrial building has these coolers that use water, they want them to get rid of those and put in air conditioning in to conserve the water. Smaller pools, all of, they're trying to increase all these conservation measures, but yeah, you know, it's a
I
challenge.
think that's key, yeah.
They're trying to get ahead of the
To
curve,
sustain.
so those were the high points of the presentation. Look, I think there's a lot of things on the horizon here that are positive. People are continuing to move here, there's demand, people are spending money like crazy. I don't think all of this is gonna continue at the same pace. Probably not good for us anyway, but, you know, supply chain, interest rates, inflation, all of that, we need to kind of work through. But as long as people keep moving to Las Vegas, we should be pretty good from a demand standpoint for houses, and which keeps all of us employed in this room. So hopefully that's a positive thing, and continue to move forward through the balance of this year. But happy to answer more questions if that's helpful, but that's what I got. I don't know what time we are. You used to have a clock back there. I don't know. I replaced it with guitars.
You're supposed to be able to see it and time yourself.
Mark,
Would you say that we're one of the fastest growing cities, if not the fastest growing city in the
We are
nation or
one
the
of.
world?
We are one of the fastest in the United States. We were always in the top 5. We've come off that a little bit. Frankly, I don't know that I believe all of the numbers that I've seen from the national data providers, because we look at how many people are exchanging driver's license. We see how many homes are being added. The pace is growing faster than some of these data that are being reported. They also lag a little bit, so, but yeah, we're still in that top 10, if you will, of major metro areas. If you look at all cities, even small ones, St. George in the last year was actually the fastest growing. So I think people have moved from, these big urban areas like in California and moving out to more suburban, spread out types of communities. But California's the first time they reported negative population growth, so, look, we all we have to do is get a little piece of that.
Yeah.
They're all here? Exactly. What else? Anything else I can answer? No, that's it? We're bored to death. Yes?
One question, a couple of years ago, they were talking about, in the north part of, Vegas, out by the Speedway, in that area, they were going to be manufacturing electric cars, there was gonna be a plant out there?
Yep, there was.
Okay, that's been squashed?
There's a plan?
Faraday Future was, I
That
think,
was
the
it,
one
yeah.
you're thinking of. Yeah, that's not happening. That land is gonna be used for other industrial purposes, so that whole Apex area, you get the Speedway, you keep going up I-15, you see that little Ritchie Brothers, like, auto auction or something over there, and then you keep going up, there's a ton of land up there that is all programmed for industrial and manufacturing uses, and so, we're actually taking a look at that for a client right now, and, trying to gauge how much demand there'll be out there, but there'll be a ton of, industrial development up there over the next 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's growing out there. Pretty
Distribution
quickly.
centers?
Yeah. Yes,
What about this fast train on,
the high-speed train, Brightline.
It's happening.
They're still planning to put their station right next to where that arena is.
As a matter of fact, it's all raised, they leveled off that corner off of Las Vegas Boulevard and Warm Springs. There were heavy equipment out there already, working on the
Yeah,
dirt.
so they're planning to move that forward. I mean, it's been stops and starts, it seems like they're back on track from what I can tell.
It's originally planned to go to Victorville right now, I believe.
It was.
In San Diego.
It is it's now slated to hook into the LA segment,
Which is
Yeah, that makes more sense.
as opposed to the train to nowhere.
Yeah, no, who's going to Victor?
Just
Do you work for LBR or the Review Journal?
What's that?
Who do you work for?
Applied Analysis.
Applied Analysis.
Yes.
Okay, there.
Don't you remember that slide I showed
Yes, well, I had the girl here, she's like, I think you work for the Review Journal, and I was like, I don't know, let me ask.
That's a good one now. No, you can't say
I just wanted to confirm, I wanted to confirm.
Sales track. You guys know what sales track is?
Yes.
It's like your MLS for new homes. Okay? These guys cut some ridiculous deal, which I'll be honest, I don't know how long it's gonna last. $100 for the entire year for sales track. You go on, you sign up, put in the notes, Realty One agent. It's normally costs you like $174 every 6 months, $350 almost for the year. So you get this like smoking deal. Anyway, you get in there for a year of access if you guys need it. New homes, you can't find anything on the resale market. We've got every new home community listed in there. If
And they also have a floor plan archive, so if you.
Floor plans of all the older homes in there as well.
It's, I've had it for years, it's so beneficial.
Really?
Yep.
So,
Yes.
sign up.
That's what we need.
So sign up with a plan analysis.
Stand it, something to stand up.
Sales scratch.
Don't
Sales
sign up
scratch.
with- Sales scratch. Don't sign up with the review journal. You'd be like, what are you doing?
Oh my goodness, that's so funny.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you all for joining. I hope you have full stomachs and had good breakfast. And remember, no matter how you slice it, greatness is a choice. Let's go out there and be great.
Yay.